One of the questions I get asked most by the coaches, creatives, and heart-led entrepreneurs in my community is, how do I stay visible without content completely taking over my life? Well, in this video, I'm going to share my 6 favorite content creation strategies that make sure that you can keep showing up without dropping a ball, burning out, or getting completely overwhelmed. As entrepreneurs, especially in the early days of our business, we wear many hats. We're marketers, we're graphic designers, we're salespeople, we're, admin and VA, and we're content creators. Your content is most likely the most important way that you connect with new customers, get more eyeballs on your brand, and yet getting it all done can feel really overwhelming. So how, as a busy entrepreneur with clients to serve, a business to run, a life to live, can you get it all done and create the amount of content that you need to create to stay visible without burning out or it completely taking over your life? I'm not saying it's easy, but there are definitely easier ways of going about it. I'm Kate, and I have spent the last 3 years in my business testing different methods of content creation strategies to make sure that I can get it all done, share all the content that I want to share without getting completely overwhelmed or dropping the ball on other things. I've tried winging it, I've done content calendars a year in advance, but the 6 strategies that I use currently in my business are the ones that work best for me. It means that I can get it all done without burning out, and they are exactly what I'm going to be sharing with you in this video. So if you find content creation completely overwhelming and you're ready to find new ways of making it work for you, give me a thumbs up, because that's exactly what you're going to learn about inside this video. And if you're new around here, a huge welcome. I do tutorials to help coaches, creatives, and heart-led entrepreneurs grow their businesses through copy, content, and storytelling every single week. Make sure you hit subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell as well so you get notified every time a new tutorial lands. So as I've said, I've tried a whole ton of methods to fit my content creation into my business without getting completely overwhelmed. And for the most part, my business has been run in just a couple of days week childcare around my children, with hard ends to the day and most of the school holidays off. So I've had to be really super duper organized. But the following content creation strategies that I'm going to share with you today have been honed through years of doing content creation for best-selling magazines back in the days when I was a magazine journalist, but also through trial and error of running my own business and having this huge amount of content that I want to get out and share. And what it's allowed me to do, it means that I regularly share podcast episodes, my YouTube channel, my blog is regularly updated, and I'm also regularly present on my social media channels. That's not to mention the content that I'm constantly creating for my members inside my Fearless Content membership, any other content that I'm creating, in other people's groups and memberships and platforms as well. So I am doing a lot of things in a very limited period of time. So these strategies really do work. So let's get started with strategy number 1. Schedule your content creation time into your diary and create yourself a skeleton calendar. Content is your marketing. So if you're guilty of squeezing it into the cracks of your calendar, there's no wonder that it feels stressful or possibly doesn't feel like it's working for you. A great way to do this is to create yourself a skeleton calendar. So you have clearly defined zones of what you are spending your time on every single day, week, or month. And in fact, this is really handy for everything that needs to get done in your business, not just your content creation. So you can use it to kind of schedule in time to get your admin done, do your emails, to do client work, as I will talk to you about it in a minute, or even just do your accounting and your bookkeeping. How you do this really depends on your working style. So when it comes to content creation, you might decide that you want to have a little bit of time set aside for each day. It might be each week, it might be each month, or it might even be each quarter. And that's also known as batching, and we will be talking about that in a little minute too. Either way, schedule the time that you need to spend on your content creation to get it all done into your calendar, so you can be sure that that time is carved out and that you're giving your marketing the attention and focus that it needs. Number 2, try having A/B weeks. Now, I find it quite hard to switch from creative tasks to admin tasks to client calls. I just find that it is just this big clunk in my brain, and it makes me less productive. And so one of the ways that I get around this is that I split my skeleton calendar into 2 alternate weeks. I have A weeks, which is usually the first week of the month and the third week of the month. And I have B weeks, which are the second week of the month and the fourth week of the month. In my A weeks, that is when I schedule all of my kind of face-to-face time, my calls, my client calls, my private mentoring. And I make sure I get them all into that week, because I just feel like that means I have to operate in a different way. I am less creative. I'm kind of using all my creativity up on my calls with my clients, and I don't have as much room or headspace to be giving my best to my content creation. That doesn't mean that I am not showing up on my social media channels. If I feel very called, or there's something on my heart that I want to share, I will, maybe pop in and do a quick social media post. But that A week isn't about any kind of significant content creation. That week is completely devoted to client work and any kind of interviews that I might be doing, and obviously all the kind of general kind of admin-y tasks that also come with running my business every single week. My B weeks, however, are my content creation weeks, and this is where I keep my diary as clear as I possibly can, so I can really focus large chunks of time on my content creation. Now, there's constantly things that I'm looking at working on, whether it is like new course content, masterclasses for my Fearless Content membership. Maybe I'm creating a training for another group, working on my podcast plan or my blogs or other pieces of content that I am creating to grow my business and get visible. All of that will be focused on in my B week. And then I stay very focused on making sure that that's what gets done, because I know in the following A week, I'm going to be focusing on my clients again. And this works really well for me to kind of split up my weeks. Now, this might not work. It might not fit so neatly with you, but you can do the same thing with days, and you can have very definite days which are devoted only to client calls, only for customer facing stuff. And you can have other days which are focused more on creativity. Number 3, batch and schedule the big stuff. So we already mentioned batching, and batching of course is where you kind of sit down and you create several pieces of the same type of content in one go, and then you schedule it and it's all ready to go and you don't have to think about it for a few weeks. So that is batching, and it really is the best way to stay on top of things like regular emails, blog posts, podcasts and things like that. It's much easier when you batch in large amounts because you're in the zone. So I tend not to batch social media posts. What I tend to do is I batch pieces of signature content. So these are things like blogs or my podcasts or these YouTube videos. So I batch them all in one go. And then the social media that comes off the back of that, I will also batch. So the posts that need to go out, which is going to be directing people to my latest podcast episode or my latest YouTube video, they will be batched as well at the same time as creating that content. So I always know that every single week I'm going to have a YouTube video going out, I'm going to have a podcast going out, I'm going to have a blog post going out, and I also have social media posts already scheduled to let my audience know, and emails as well to let my audience know that those are going out there. And this also then gives me the freedom to show up on my social media channels as I feel inspired to. There might be something going on in my life that I want to share, and I feel like I want to create a social media post that day about it, and that's fine. I don't batch that type of content at all. That is all comes from the heart, because I think people can tell when it's being cut and paste. But the content that is going to have kind of evergreen lessons and going to have a big lasting impact, that is the kind of stuff that I batch and schedule social media reminders and notifications around. So another question I get about batching is, how many should I batch in advance? Well, this really again is unique to you. I will try to batch 6 podcast episodes in advance and 12 YouTube videos in advance. I feel like it gives me the breathing space. I think if you're doing any less than 6 in advance, by the time that they're scheduled and they're rolling out, you're kind of back around to having to batch another load of them already. So I would do a minimum of 6 of anything in one batching session. You can split it over several days. You can think, this week, this B week, this content creation week is about batching X amounts of episodes of my podcast or X amounts of blog posts. You don't have to do it all one day, but you just know at the end of that period of time, you will have batched and you will have scheduled all of that content so you don't have to think about it again. Number 4, repurpose and reuse. One of the biggest misconceptions about content creation is that you need to be creating constant brand new content all the time. That just isn't always going to be practical. The chances are that the content you've already created, not all of your audience saw the first time round. So don't feel like you have to create something brand new every single week or month. You can simply go back through and reshare stuff that you've already created. You can do a roundup of your best blog posts, point people towards specific podcast episodes, or any other valuable training or content that you have created that you know is still relevant and valuable for your audience. Also think about all that fantastic content that you've already created for your social media channels, which has got lost somewhere down at the end of your news feed. Think of ways that you can reshare it. You could turn that social media post into a subscriber only email. You could turn it into a blog post. The other thing that you can do is you can top and tail it and just reshare it. What I mean by topping and tailing is where you swap out the headline for something a little bit fresh and new, and you change the CTA and then you reshare it as a brand new piece of content. Even the people who've seen it before probably won't recognize it and certainly will appreciate seeing that valuable piece of content again. Number 5, make hard deadlines and get accountable. Something I learned the importance of early on in my career as a journalist is deadlines, because I know that if I had a week to write something, it would take me a week. But if my editor said to me, you've got 2 hours to get it done in, I would get the same piece of content done in 2 hours. And the same goes for you. You need to be really honest about the time you want to be spending on individual pieces of content and stick to it. So don't give yourself a week to write a blog post. Give yourself a morning. That is much more realistic, and we do not want to be spending that huge amount of time on one piece of content when there are so many other things that we need to be doing inside our business. And if you struggle to hold yourself accountable, get yourself an accountability buddy or an accountability group. Someone who is trying to do the same thing as you, whether that's batch 6 episodes of their podcast or 12 videos for YouTube. Break down what the task involves, set yourself a deadline, and stay accountable via a messenger group, meetups, or even a WhatsApp group. Number 6, book in a quarterly planning day. Booking in a quarterly planning day is a great way to make sure that you are focusing on the content that is actually moving your business forward. And this is something that I always do. I at least have one day set aside every quarter, which is focused purely on looking at what I want to be creating and producing over the next 3 to 6 months, and what I therefore need to create content-wise around that. I might need to be creating masterclasses, I might need to be creating trainings and courses, and around that I'll be wanting to also create podcast episodes, blog posts, YouTube videos, and launch content to make sure that whenever I come up to selling a specific product, I'm not having to create the content as I go. It is all created, ready to go, so I don't need to think about that. I can just focus on what needs to be done each single day. So there you have it, my exact content creation game plan. Hopefully those 6 tips are going to really transform the way that you approach your content and make sure that you are creating stuff that is actually moving you towards your business goals rather than burning you out, overwhelming you, and not getting you anywhere at all. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, I'm Kate. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. You can check out the next one from me right here, and if you click down here, you can grab a free gift.